Chicago, no question, has felt the strain in recent months. The influx of migrants. Today marks exactly 1 year since the first migrant buses arrived here. So what can we expect moving forward? Why does it matter? What's the latest, and what are people saying? For that, joining us now is friend of the stream from Axios, Monica Eng, who has been tracking and reporting on Chicago's migrant crisis now for some time. Did a great article recently. Thank you, Ms. Eng. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
First things first, let's lay a picture out about where we're at. I mean, looking back a year ago, Governor J.B. Pritzker declared a state of emergency. As of now, about 13,000 migrants have been sent here, with some not even being able to finish their trips. We've reported on cases just recently. A 3-year-old girl died on a bus from Venezuela en route to Chicago. Police districts are now overcrowded with migrants living there. Can you put your arms around this for Chicago 1 year in?
Well, yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker said what started out as a humanitarian mission, a short-term humanitarian mission, has become a long-term crisis. The 5 most powerful politicians in Illinois got together with the most powerful business leaders to say, we need help from the federal government. Mayor Brandon Johnson said, we cannot keep capably welcoming people without comprehensive changes to immigration laws and changes to policies. 13,000 people, more than 1,500 sleeping on the floors of O'Hare and police stations, and multiple busloads and plane passengers coming every day. I did a story recently because a lot of people assume this is all coming from Greg Abbott, but he only really claims responsibility for about a third. So I was like, well, where are the rest of the migrants coming from, and who believes that Chicago has the capabilities? They're coming from Catholic charities and other NGOs, largely in Texas, and from Denver, who got about 14,700 migrants, but only have 500 living there because they routinely hand out bus and train tickets, often to Chicago.
Oh, that's fascinating. So Governor Abbott, who a lot of people blame this on in Texas, claims only about 30% of what we have are from him. You're almost saying like the lion's share then is coming apparently from Denver, where are they sent there by Governor Abbott and then almost redirected here?
Well, they're sent there through various forms. I mean, non-governmental organizations in El Paso and San Antonio have been sending a lot. I mean, what they tell me, including Catholic charities, is, hey, look, if they tell us that they have, that they want to go to Chicago or they have a friend in Chicago, we're not going to stop them, and we buy them that bus ticket. And in Denver, they say the same thing. Back in January, Lori Lightfoot urged the Colorado governor to please stop sending busloads from Colorado to Chicago. He says he did that. He stopped it. But Denver Human Services is still buying those tickets. The Chicago Tribune had a great story where they followed a family from Texas to Chicago, and they went up to Denver, and they said the same day they went to the Coliseum, they got 5 train tickets to Chicago. And so it's almost this word of mouth thing where you have to go to the border. I've heard some sources tell me that New York has sent people to the border saying New York is not a good place to come. But the word on the street, as more people come to Chicago, they hear, oh, I have a friend who went to Chicago. So word on the street is really powerful in people thinking Chicago's the place I want to be, despite our inability to really properly care for this many migrants.
So a real misnomer there that this is all directed from Texas and Governor Abbott at his behest. Where's this money going to come from? We're a couple $100 million deep already. The federal government has said likely no help is coming. Taxpayers are clearly at a point of exhaustion. Any insight on that, Monica?
Well, yesterday at the press conference, Governor Pritzker said that Chicago has paid about $200 million and that Illinois has paid about $100 million. The city council recently allocated $1.5 million to buy that old Marine Corps training base by the Foster Bus Depot to house another 500 migrants. I talked to the Department of Homeland Security. They said that they're going to be allocating another $70 million for states to share, but that doesn't go far. Cristina Pacione-Zayas, who's the deputy mayor in charge of immigration, she said the $50 million that we may be getting will be burned through in a month. So It's not clear, but yesterday's sort of joining of forces between
Right.
business and Democratic leaders, calling on their Democratic leader in Washington to please help. Included, calls saying we just don't have the money and we don't have the laws. They said if Joe Biden would give them authorization to allow the migrants to work, then
Yes.
you'd be clearing the police stations, clearing the shelters, and finally the 400,000 jobs in Illinois that are left vacant might find some people to do the work. Farms, manufacturing, hospitality, they're desperate for workers.
Yeah, that's huge here. I think there's this misperception when they come here, even talking with some of these migrants, that they can work. They actually can't work. They can't work until they get basically a certification from the government, and that now takes, it could take 6 months to even
Almost
apply.
in a year.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting you bring that up. I mean, we've got so many tentacles to this story that we thought so let's go back a year ago. We are the city of big shoulders. We were certainly, the majority wanted to be a sanctuary city, open arms. When it started, as I think Governor Pritzker probably appropriately kind of surmised the universe of it, it was a short-term humanitarian crisis.
Mission.
Yeah, mission, and now it's a crisis, and because of that, those open arms of Chicago are now closing. We've got an alderman who says people, if they're even charged with a crime, some of these migrants, if they're charged, not even convicted of certain crimes, should be booted. Where do you think the public sentiment stands? Are the open arms closing, and will they continue to close until we get some type of help?
If you can hear the frustration from older people who are representing their constituents, it does seem that that sort of warm feeling is wearing off. And I think that was exactly the strategy of, let's say, the Texas governor.
Right.
How do you guys like it? I'm going to get Democrats fighting with Democrats. And you got Lori Lightfoot writing a letter to a Democratic, governor saying, cut it out, stop sending them. And now you had the most powerful Democrats in Illinois begging Joe Biden to please authorize these people to work because they believe it could solve all sorts of problems, the severe labor shortage in Illinois, and get people on a path to self-sufficiency as they await their asylum hearings. It's not citizenship. It's simply a temporary work permit.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, the patience is running thin. And I think, Christina Pacione-Zayas said that she believes there could be 10 busloads coming in every day as we near the DNC next August. And she said that she seemed to imply that would really embarrass Chicago and the Democratic Party if they kept doing that. So a strategy really needs to be found.
Yeah, and if you're talking about strategy, and if this is a game of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, a political chess match, the Governor Abbott out of Texas has won this first year because he's got Democrats fighting with each other, cities like Chicago not knowing what to do. But Monica Eng, reporter from Axios, staying on top of it all for us. Really insightful this morning. We appreciate your insight, your work on this topic. We'll have you back soon. Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, Brad.